Welcome to the Viewless Wings Poetry Podcast, where we celebrate the craft of poetry. Each week, we feature interviews with incredible poets and artists, including Olivia Gatwood and A.E. Stallings, and original poetry read by the authors. I'm your host, James Morehead, Poet Laureate of Dublin, California, and author of Canvas and Portraits of Red and Gray. On this episode of the Viewless Wings Poetry Podcast, the poem Today from my book Canvas is featured. I'll first read the poem and then go behind the scenes on how the poem was created and inspired. Today, by James Morehead. First, I think it's Monday from my quarantined confines. I look outside for any clues to offer me a sign. Then again, it could be Tuesday when deliveries come. The FedEx truck will drop surprises boxed and on the run. Perhaps it's Wednesday when a corgi strolls by with a prance. She or he might briefly pause so I can catch a glance. When Thursday comes, grocery brags, the welcome mat does fill. But my fridge is packed so neatly stacked it can't be Thursday still. If Friday's here, then weekend's near, but hard to know for sure. Will they ever vaccinate to make a time loop cure? Wait, yesterday was Saturday. I watched my favorite show. But perhaps I watched a replay I recorded days ago. I expect a call on Wednesday, so if my phone is buzzing, I'll have a clue. Mystery solved. Get right back to my gardening, that thing I do each Thursday morn to fill the passing hours. I tend each planter lovingly, awaiting springtime flowers. But then I notice silence as I wander down the hall, the air so still it must be Sunday, heading into fall. Perhaps the days have lost all meaning to infinity, and Escher looped back on itself to circle ceaselessly. I wrote this poem in 2020 during the lockdown phase of the pandemic, working from home when days seemed to bleed into each other. The poem started as a simple idea, forgetting what day it is, the same phenomenon I've noticed when on a long vacation or during the Christmas holiday season. As I iterated on the idea of memory, the poem evolved into a series of things that make the days a little different, some real, some imagined. I'm not a gardener. At the time, the pandemic was so scary and sad that I wanted to create something light and fanciful, something I could read years later and laugh about. The humor in the poem also led me to lean into a sing-song pattern with a series of rhyming couplets, which is challenging. Rhyming in the English language is a puzzle to unravel, and thanks to Google, I have a resource at hand for finding rhymes and near rhymes for just about anything. I'd love to tell you that every rhyme just popped into my head, but in reality, part of writing a poem is research. Researching an idea you aren't familiar with to learn the unique language of the idea. Researching sounds, researching synonyms to find a more poetic word, or a word that suits the rhythm, or in this case, researching rhymes. Walking through the days of the week helped provide structure, and originally the poem ended on Sunday, but that wasn't satisfying because the pandemic felt then, and still feels now, like this endless cycle. In the final stanza, Escher loop is a reference to Dutch graphic artist M.C. Escher, who created wonderfully detailed, impossible graphics, visual illusions that would loop to infinity. I hope my poem today brought a smile to your face during a very challenging time. The Viewless Wings Poetry Podcast is written and produced by James Morehead. You can follow me on Twitter at Dublin Ranch, subscribe to the Viewless Wings Poetry Podcast, and follow us on viewlesswings.com or on Instagram at viewlesswings.